Do you know what to do if your child was choking? Well, Miley in class says she's experienced the heart-stopping moment not once, but twice with her daughters. She revealed that her 14-year-old daughter, Ava, choked on calamari while on holiday 4 years ago. And 11-year-old Hero got a plastic star stuck in her throat when she was just 18 months old. Well, luckily, Miley did manage to save both of her children's lives, but she has since done first aid courses and is encouraging other parents to do the same. So do you think it should be mandatory, Jane?
I think it's a really good idea, as long as, because obviously there are certain people that wouldn't be able to afford it if you had to pay for it. Yes, I do, because that word you said there about heart stopping, I can really identify with that, because, you know, you all like to think, well, what would I do in an emergency situation with one of my children? You know, I'd be this calm, whatever. And when it happened, when Grace was a baby, she was in the living room, and I was just, it's like part of the kitchen is the same bit. And I suddenly heard this noise, and I went in, and she was going like this, and I was like, oh my God, and I completely panicked.
Yeah.
It's like wow. Everything you think you know just falls out of a trap door in your head.
How old was she?
I'm trying to think, old enough that she would have been able to pick something up. I'm trying to remember, I can't remember the age.
Toddler.
But, so I vaguely remembered somebody said you put them over your knee and you do this, and I was doing it because I was thinking it was some object, nothing. And then she started to sort of, her eyes were going back in her head, and she was starting to turn a bit of a funny colour. So her older sister was upset. I screamed, I was like, Ellie! And I literally got into the car. Ellie was sitting, I threw Grace in, because the GP is just up the road.
OK.
So I didn't put any seatbelts or anything, just drove up there, left the car in the middle of the road, ran into the GP surgery going, my child is choking. The GP, to their credit, they were with a patient, obviously heard, came out. And by the time they came out, she'd obviously got a bit of air and she was starting to sort of do that. Anyway, they opened up they looked in and that went right down. And, you know, like a business envelope, they have that window on the front.
Yeah.
And at the back of that window, there's just like a sheer piece of plastic. And it was one of those. That was obviously on the carpet from something we hadn't seen. And she'd obviously put it in her mouth, and it had just gone across her airway.
Oh,
no. So I couldn't see it. And, you know, they just put some device down and pulled it out. But I have never been so scared in all my life. Because you just suddenly think, they're dying in front of me, and I don't know what to do.
Well, I think that's part of the reason why when Alfie was first starting to eat food, when we were weaning him, when we knew that we were going to do it, I went on a first aid course to make sure that I knew what to do if he were to choke, because I knew nothing. No. And I thought, if something happens to him, I don't know what to do, and by the time I find help, it could be too late. And I think that was one of the best things that I ever did. Like, I didn't know about the gag reflex, so when they're learning to swallow, you know, their body does sort of try to expel the object, but actually they're fine and they're not choking, they've just got to learn how to swallow. I wouldn't have known any of that stuff. It meant that I was a lot calmer whilst doing the process of teaching him how to eat, and I stuck up a poster in the kitchens that the reference was always there if he were to choke while eating. And I found it incredibly useful. Things like putting the pot on the back rings so they don't pull it down, how to cut up food so they don't choke on it. Grapes, very important. All of those things we learn on this, well, I learned on the course and then told Andy.
On one of these courses?
Well, we paid to go on the course, but I do know that the charity that we did it with, the reason why they get people to, some of us to pay, is that they can give it free to those who aren't able to afford to do it. But you know, the advice when choking, just so anyone knows, we have got it up on the website, but there are different things according to the age of your child. So, like on the NHS website, if your baby is under 1, you sit them down, you lay the baby face down along your thigh like you did, or on your forearm, and give 5 hard blows on the back. And then it's different when they're over 1. Chest thrusts are different when they're under 1. There are so many different ways that you can do it. But I am a massive believer that it makes you a calmer parent once you know what to do. You will feel less panicked. And the theory is, you could save the life of your child.
This is amazing. I wish I'd known.
Or somebody else's.
Well, I wish I'd known half of this. And the interesting thing is, I think I would have liked to have learned about it before I became a new mum, because I know as a new mum, you just zonk, don't you? You're just out for the count because it's so heavy. So wouldn't it be interesting if, like we grew up with the Green Cross Code, if these infomercials with some of these amazing little nuggets that you've just shared now, like for everyone who can't go on the course, if I was a mom with a newborn watching baby programmes or cartoons and this infomercial came up in the ad breaks or even online, then you're just getting it, aren't you? Like,
what the ones that you remember? Because we had loads of infomercials.
I remember, well, the Tufty Club that we showed at the beginning. I'm old enough to remember that, the crossing the road one. Oh, yeah. And do you remember? I remember it was, oh, look, that man's waving. and he was drowning. Do you remember that one?
And there was another one, think before you drink, before you drive. Remember that one?
Yeah.
Yes.
There's
And think once,
them.
think twice, think bike.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Stop, look, listen, all of those campaigns.
Yeah.
But when it comes to first aid, I don't recall ever really seeing any or hearing of any. Loads of you have been getting in touch, actually, online. We've got Lena says, I'm a qualified first aider. It came in handy when my 6-year-old daughter was eating her first lollipop. It came off the stick and went straight down her throat. Lucky enough, I knew what to do. Kathleen says, I don't know how to do CPR, but I'd like to be able to cope with other emergencies until help arrived. I wish I knew. Loads of people here saying they did it when their babies were born. Teresa did it when her granddaughter was born. You know, it's an important life skill. As you say, Jane, it doesn't just help you as a parent, it helps other people too. And we do have more information on our website, actually, so make sure that you do log in and see the different ways in which you can learn how to learn more about first aid.